it looks pretty simple. If you turn it back, it's a cypress, which is the local wood in Andalusia, and a 3-part. And here it's no mosaic. Some people call it la fea because they think it's not very beautiful. I like it because it's simplicity. And this bridge is a bit historical bridge, this shape, because this comes from Pernas, which is supposed to be kind of teacher of Torres, but it's not really given proof. But anyway, Torres made some guitars in the style of Pernas, at least. So how did this guitar come to me? Well, I didn't go to the guitar. The guitar, in fact, came to me because the owner of this guitar, Dr. Hannen, he was a private student of mine. And one day he's a very modest, pretty quiet person. And he said, well, may I show you an old guitar by Antonio de Torres? I at the time was just about finishing my studies, and I played a guitar by Robert Ruck and, you know, modern guitar, loud, wang, wang, wang. I said, yes, why not, like this. Then he showed me, and I could hardly hide my disappointment because blinky, plonky, plonky, it was not. Oof. I said, yes, interesting, very old, like this, you know. And then this guitar went into restoration. This was something like 30 years ago. And the restorator, Benno Stroy in Freiburg, he really did a very unconventional, incredible job, because from this guitar, the top was sunken in, you know, it was all deformed, and he made a recultivation process of 3 or 4 months, like in an aquarium he put there with exotic woods, herbs, yeah? So you have like eucalyptus, you know, you have oily atmosphere, and, well, I cannot tell you the details, I don't know. The only thing I know is that he put the guitar into this aquarium, and it was fixed on nylon strips so that its own weight pulled the guitar down. And so, and with the time, the top came up a little bit. So, and then, yeah, it stayed there until today. So that was quite interesting. And after that, the guitar was much more playable and enjoyable. And then I considered the guitar being interesting for Francesco da Milano or Luis Milan, old music. Peaceful, slow, old music. The first public concert I did in Bonn, at that time still the capital in Germany, and I played the old music, and I played the third lute suite, which sounded really good on the Leona. And then I played some Tárrega Albenis. And then with the time, I enlarged my repertoire on the guitar, and it was not falling in love on the first sight, not at all. But time by time, it got more deep and more intensive. Okay, now to jump today, just 1 month before our production here, I did a production for a new album with my compositions from last year. So very fresh stuff. The Arpeggio Experience and the Magic 4. So this is one album. And finally, I decided to record this on La Leona. It was not intended for that. I was planning to record that with the Santos, which I use in the tutorial as well. But finally, I decided from all the guitars I had, this was the most impressive and most perfect, even for the contemporary music. So on the piece, we had just heard this this is still very classical. For me, it's beautiful on that guitar. It's delicate, elegant. So I'm really happy after being disappointed in the first moment. This is a central part of my guitaristic identity now, today. So when Tárrega came, I think he was 17 years old, with his impresario, you know, this was a businessman from his area, from the Valencia area, and he was an amateur violinist. and I was surprised to read in this book here by Adrián Ríos that Tárrega accompanied this friend on the piano with Beethoven sonatas, violin sonatas. Great, imagine Tárrega played Beethoven accompanying the violinist on the piano. So that was a story. And this guy, Tárrega heard Julián Arcas, the most famous, prestigious guitarist at that time, in a concert in Castellón. And he played La Leona, which was not in his possession. It was only a loan by Torres himself. And then he was so impressed. And then his impresario said, well, come on, Paco, we have to go down to Andalusia. I have some business there anyway. And we have a look in Sevilla at the workshop of this Mr. Torres. So they went there, and then Torres gave him an ordinary guitar of his, like all the Spanish guitar makers do. They give you the cheap one to check you out. And then he played and said, oh no, this is not for you, this guitar. And then he brought a real good one and said, this is the guitar for you. And he gave it to him, but he had to pay, not like Segovia, no? With the Man Ramirez, who was given as a gift, play it all in the world, make it famous. No, Torres sold this to him. And this is the first Tárrega Torres guitar. We all know. I think it's from 1862 or 60. I'm not sure. Anyway, so that's the story of Tárrega and myself and Torres. Well, if you would ask me how this guitar changed my life, or if at all, then I can try to give a very short answer. Or I could create a book out of it, because it goes into the very deep things which may happen to a human being. Do we change the things, or the things change us? Or is it a process which is vice versa? Well, I had to learn to understand the guitar, how it works. So I had to change first. But then once there was a kind of trust between the instrument and myself, it's like with a human being, I wanted special things from this guitar and I tried to get it out. So I taught the guitar in a way to go into a new area which maybe was not yet really set up. It was maybe inside somehow, a potential, but it was not yet really defined. It existed, but it was not visible or audible. And so it happened that I moved much more to the contemporary repertoire with this guitar than I ever intended before. I thought it's good for old music, maybe a little bit Spanish, but not too difficult pieces, but not Rodrigo, not Brauer, not Villalobos and all that. And so now we ended up that everything sounded really good on the guitar. So I think it's a double process. The guitar taught me, she said, hey, don't change me. Be grateful that you may play on me. So like this. And so I understood this message. And if I didn't like, then I played another guitar. Okay, but when I played on the Leona, I had to, yes, madam, yes, like this. But with, as I said, with the growing confidence on both sides, we develop both. So in a way, this Leona sounds much better than 30 years ago. And this is because I play it. But it also changed my listening, because the good thing about this guitar is that you understand. That's the beginning of one of the pieces I composed last year from Magic 4. So this is a bit atonal, but it's so clear on this guitar. Like this. What a beauty. And what a natural clarity and a human warmth. So I'm thankful that we taught each other. We talk about the future of La Leona, we talk about my future. As long as I'm on this planet, I will play this guitar. I have an exclusive right to perform on this instrument, and it's like my own guitar. And but the story is not yet finished somehow. And so, for example, one of the next projects will be Bach and the D minor partita, and maybe I combine this with the third lute suite. And I'm thinking about maybe using 2 Torres guitars, so that to show within the work of Torres some variation. Maybe the lute suite on this guitar and the D minor partita, which is originally for violin, in my transcription or arrangement on another early, the FA 13. So this is what I'm calculating now. So, well, and when I'm not here, then I would think the best is it would belong to a museum, which may give some guitarists with really, how we say in English, trustful or gifted, and who shows the respect and the transcendence you need to understand that, so that it's played. Because the good thing about this guitar, you can play it. You can play it. It's there. It's waiting for you. So that's the future. It's an instrument. A museum would be good to take the security. The future of La Leona is also maybe the future of Tárrega. Well, has Tárrega any future? He died in 1909, but his message and the heritage we have from him is a romantic view of our instrument. And if we take the great epochs, then let's say we have in the center, we have Tárrega with the romantic Spanish guitar sound. This is the sound who really gave the largest success ever to the guitar, to the acoustic guitar. The next success was the Fender Stratocaster and Gibson, the electric guitar world. That was the next step, Jimi Hendrix. But before Jimi Hendrix was Tárrega. So before Tárrega was Fernando Sor. Fernando Sor grew up in Montserrat, in the cloister, and he was trained very classical, and Haydn was his big dio, his big god, and he even transcribed the Schöpfung for 2 guitars at the end of his school. Very interesting. And before Sor, well, we had the Baroque guitar with a double chorus, a flamenco style, a French and Italian Baroque guitar, and a little bit Murcia, also the Spanish variant of that. Before that, we had the Renaissance guitar, or in Spain, the viola, with a 5-chorus guitar. So these are the things: 5-chorus guitar, Baroque guitar, Fernando Sor classical guitar, Spanish romantic guitar, Tárrega, electric guitar. Okay, these are the big steps. As we are in the fraction of the classical guitar players and not the electrical players, I also played electric guitar. But in this fraction, I, in general, would like to say that classical music is mostly about romantic music. So if we go Star Wars, we have a classical symphonic orchestra composed by John Williams in a style of late romantic, of Strauss, of Wagner. Bum, bum, ta-dum, bum, ba, bum. This is Wagner. Star Wars, okay. You could do the same with Hobbit and what all these films, blah, blah, blah. It's all a continuation of the romantic idea, still there. When we listen piano, we listen to Rachmaninoff concerto, we hear Chopin, it's all romantic. We are still in the romantic epoch with our hearts. Our intellect is with Luigi Nono, with Stockhausen and all thing, or it's with, well, whatever you want, with jazz, with Miles Davis and so on and so on. So there are millions of possibilities of world music, of electronic music. But the majority in classical music, they like romantic music. So this is the core of our classical guitar, more than soar and more like the very modern. So that's there. And I have recorded all my compositions, and among them are a lot of atonal stuff as well. I recorded always La Leona, not as a tribute to La Leona. No, I wanted the best solution for my music. And because of the transcendental quality of La Leona, you not just hear the wood, you hear a concept, and more, you hear a spirit. And finally, you hear a human. Because somehow Torres was a very human person with a strong sensibility to music. How else can you create? If I talk with the today guitar makers, most of them have a gigantic respect to Torres because, for example, someone like Andrea Tacchi said, well, Torres solved most of the problems already. And we still have to understand him, says he. 170 years later. So it's not about having a legend and all that. No, it was just a very important person like Stradivari was. And so far, we have to be very thankful he's there. And what we, with his message, is also the message of Tárrega. And so when you cannot talk about Torres without, about Tárrega without talking about Torres and vice versa. If you don't play a Torres in the proper way, you miss things. It still sounds good, but you don't provide the full potential. So his aesthetic and the instrument by Torres, this together created the Spanish sound, independent from flamenco, the classical Spanish sound. So, and we orient on that. If you play an orchestra instrument, you have to check how you play Mozart, you have to play Brahms, you have to play Strauss, you have to play Stravinsky. So, but you have one violin, which is hopefully maybe from the 18th century. You play everything on that. Everything has to be good. So this is the message from Torres and from Tárrega. Tárrega doesn't say you may only play my music. You say, no, this is the way how I play guitar. And if you like to play Henze, who was Henze? Ah, yeah, Hans Werner Henze. Yeah, why not? Or Benjamin Britten. I mean, he didn't know these people. But if he could, he said, oh, sounds a bit strange, but yeah, if you play it good, why not? Like this, you know. I'm a bit joking, but I say it's a very good heritage. And we give guitar a symphonic, a complete spiritual body. And not only an extract, only a little bit sore, a little bit old, a little bit new. No. We get the things complete. It's orchestral. That's why finally Berlioz said the guitar is a small orchestra, and he did not know the Torres guitar. Maybe you heard the Lacote guitar, but still. So I think that we can really have a fulfilled artistic life with the guitar. My father, who was a classical cellist, he said, well, he didn't like the idea I study guitar. He said, yeah, that's not enough for a fulfilled artistic life to play the guitar, you know. Yeah, what could I say at the age of 18 or something? But today I have to say, no, it's okay. We can do it. We can do it if we get the potential. And that's maybe a little bit the message also of this lecture about the Spirit of Tárrega. If we talk about Tárrega, and especially if we use the term spirit. So this is not a university lecture now about all the details of his life, and not about all of his works and his publications. No, it's about his vision, about his idea.